Leonce is the man. Besides his impressive resume, he is someone that you could sit down and talk to for hours and clearly forget how much time has actually passed. Undoubtedly, his wisdom comes from his unique background, which includes context from the world of professional sports and music industry. At the University of Oklahoma, Lance Crump was an All-American wrestler and defensive end for the Sooner football team. He then went on to play for professional football for the New Orleans Saints. He's been an ordained minister for 9 years and has graduate degrees from the University of Tennessee and Resurgence Theological Training Center. His wife, Brianna, and him reside in the heart of downtown Atlanta with their 3 daughters and son. Now let me tell you about the serendipitous way that we met. I was sitting on the deck of a boat with my family, and then that's when I heard my dad hop on the boat with Lance and another couple. I shook all their hands and we all started to talk. I'm still confused today why my dad actually brought complete strangers on the boat that we were sleeping on. But Lance and I started to talk a lot about life and some of his crazy stories, and the advice that he gave me has been life-changing. I'm very glad that we got to meet because he is a true inspiration. Please help me welcome Leonce Crump.
Good morning. You guys are better at that than my church, so thank you. I know I've got 25 minutes, so I need somebody to help me keep time. If you could yell that out. What do you call that guy, Foos? Foos. Hey, let me know, man. Every 5 minutes, okay? You got it? All right, bruh. Hey, and sit up. It's bad for your back. All right. I don't need to further introduce myself, I don't believe. My young brother Hunter there did a great job. I'm glad to be here with you all. I don't know how you endure this weather. I hope I see the sun today, but if I don't, know that I will not return. This morning, I want to tell you the 5 most important things that you may ever hear. And I don't say that as an arrogant statement, but I believe that these 5 things that I've learned over the last nearly 40 years of my life. I know you're surprised because I'm so young and handsome looking, but I'm almost 40, and I've learned 5 things that I believe, if you value them, if you allow them to shape the course of your reality, if you allow them to be at the very core of your person, then you might actually be able to change the world. And I don't mean that in the colloquial sense, and I don't mean that in the millennial sense. I mean that in an actual sense. And I believe if you let them drill down deep into your heart, that you will be those that shift the cultural consciousness in a way that allows our world to go forward as it was intended. Number 1, you matter. You matter. Not in the way that you may think. You see, the way that we measure worth in our culture and our society is measured by what we have, or what we can produce, or how much is in our pockets, or when you get to my age, how many degrees or zeros are behind our name and bank account, or what we look like, or who we're with, or how large our house is, or how nice our car or our clothes are. But those are not the things that make you matter, nor are those things wrong. I mean, look at this coat. But those are not the things that make you matter. The way that you matter, the way that you know you matter, is because you know that you were made. Now, I know we're not all Christians here, but that is the very core of my person. And when I see the words in Genesis 1:26 through 27 that we were made in the image of God, then that tells me that I matter. And that measure matters more than any other that I could ever have, that we are image bearers, mirrors, reflectors of the divine itself. And that is what makes us matter. And if that is your core, then when you face things that try to diminish your value, try to diminish your worth, try to make you feel less than you are, then you will have something to reach back to that is greater than any words that could come toward your person or your reality. Now, unfortunately, we live in a country, in a world, in a time that measures people by every metric but how they are made. I remember the first time I encountered this. I was in an institution called kindercare. You don't know that, but it's a daycare where parents drop off their children when they both work. And we were playing a game. We were going to play house. And I wanted to play the game too. And as they were doling out assignments of who would play what role, there was a girl that I liked. She was very, very, very fine for a 7-year-old. And I was 8, so there was nothing weird about it. And I said, I'm going to play your husband. And she just shook her head and she said no. Now I was devastated because, again, I have been this attractive for most of my life. But I said, well, how about your uncle? No. Grandfather? No. And I asked why. And she said, because you're black. And it rocked me. And it sent me to a place that I didn't know that a young person could go to. Because her opinion of me and my worth in what she thought of the color of my skin was how I allowed her to measure me. Rather than remembering that no matter black or white or brown or whatever, that we were all made in the image of God, which means that we matter. Hear me. We were all made in the image of God, which means that we matter. Foosh, you missed your cue, bro. It's been 5 minutes. 4:40? Okay, 20 more seconds on why you matter. Number 2, because you matter, you should live with meaning. Because you matter, you should live with meaning. You should have a white hot why for your existence. You see how these things build on one another. It's not about what you have. It's not about what people think you are. It's not about living for money or clout or fame or comfort or success. All of those things can fade away in an instant. I was a big, bad NFL football player until my knees and my shoulders said I wasn't. Until the third surgery told me that that career was done. And all of a sudden, all of the fame, all of the clout, all of the air around who I was as number 90 for the NFL Saints didn't matter anymore. Couldn't get in the clubs that I used to get into. Probably shouldn't have been there anyway. Didn't get a lot of comped meals anymore. No one was screaming my name. I didn't have a why. I only had a what. What I did was play football. Who I was football. Had I had a why for my existence, a reason for being, a depth of meaning, attached to an understanding that I matter because I'm made in the image of God, then perhaps I would have made different decisions on the heels of my very brief NFL career. But because you matter, you should live with meaning, which means that even as we go about our lives through beautiful schools as this one and hopefully on to beautiful universities and incredible careers, that none of those things will come to define our person, but that we would see those things as tools, opportunities, things to be leveraged to allow us to express the why of our existence. And maybe you've never even thought in those terms, but you were put in this world with a purpose, with intent, not simply to meander through your life until you have gray hairs on your head and enough zeros in your account to retire fat and happy. But you are actually put here to make an impact, not only in the lives of those who are immediately nearest to you, but those who will feel the ripple effect of your great ideas and innovations, your ingenuity that is driven by a white hot why when you live with meaning. And when you live with meaning, what you do, and subsequently what you have, and how others feel about it, take a back seat to your person, to why you exist and what your existence contributes to the good of the world. And that is something worth waking up for every single day. I'll never forget my father several years ago. He's 73 now. And he told me, son, you were my why. It was never about Exxon. He worked for Exxon Chemical. He was a chemical engineer, scientist. I've had too many concussions to do that. And he said, every day I got up at 4:45 a.m., not because I knew I would make six figures, and not to keep a roof over your head, and not to put food on the table. I got up at 4:45 a.m. every single day because you were my why. Because I exist to see you thrive in this world, to carve a path for you to do better for the world, not just for yourself, but for the common good than I could do working my 9 to 5 from 4:45 a.m. until I got home every day. And that is what I want to challenge you to take some time to delve into your inner world, even you extroverts, and discover what your why is. Are you purposeless in this world? Or can you believe that you've been placed here with specificity in this time, in this era, in this overcast, snow-covered place, so that you might go out from here and do more and be more and impact more than the generations that preceded you? I want to give you two resources to consider in that regard. The book of Ecclesiastes in the scriptures, in the Christian Bible, is probably one of the greatest collections of wisdom and pressing us into delving into meaning of anything that has ever been written. And then Simon Sinek's book, Start with the Why, will help to shape how you see your own existence. Number 3, fools. Thank you, sir. Number 3, be others motivated. So number 1, what was number 1? You matter. Number 2. There you go. Who said meaning? There you go. Appreciate you, teach. Number 2, live with meaning. Know your why is a part of living with meaning. Number 1, you matter. And because you matter, you live with meaning. And because you live with meaning, number 3, you will be others motivated. You will be others motivated. May I read a bit of scripture? This is from the New Living Translation. Philippians 2:3, do not be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. If I could translate that more colloquially from the great philosopher Kendrick Lamar, sit down. Be humble. Be others motivated. You see, we live in an era unlike any other, I believe, where there's a more prevalent self-centeredness than any other time in human history. And maybe that's an overstatement. Maybe it's because of social media. Maybe it's because of the degree to which we are able to be connected. Maybe it's the speed with which we are able now to get information that we seem to be more self-centered than any other time. But people who change the world are others motivated. People who know that they matter, people who live with meaning, ultimately know that they are not the point, but that others are. And they are motivated to see other people thrive, to see other people do well, to see other people make it, to see other people flourish. If you can be others motivated, there's nearly no door that will ever be closed to you, because people can sense it even when you don't say it. They know that you are not there for yourself, but that you are there for the good. And when you know that you matter and when you live with meaning, then you don't have to be self-centered. You don't have to be the point. You can make others the point. You can step back into the shadows. You can allow other people to flourish and know inside yourself that you helped to be a part of their reality. Number 4, because you know you matter, and because you live with meaning, and because you're others motivated, then you can adequately fight for the dream. You can adequately fight for the dream. What is that dream? Well, Dr. King melodiously declared that he dreamed of a world, of a nation, where we would not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. You can add to that we would not be judged by our orientation or by the color of our hair or by our religious background or by our economic standing or by our educational aptitude or by our intellectual prowess. But that in fact we could be judged only by the content of our character, and know that in our common humanness that we are actually more related than any other reality that would exist. Unfortunately, it seems that we have not come as far as we might have imagined by this time. Some of us who are older and even older still look at the news and look at some of the realities in which we presently exist, where it is related to race and economics and justice and poverty, and wonder how it is in this generation that so much still feels like the 60s. And yet here you are, bright and beautiful and ready to change the world. And my hope is that you would see the world as it is and want something more. And know that because you matter and because you live with meaning and because you're others motivated, that you can actually accomplish the dream. And that you would hand your children a world that we could not hand to ours. Now, of course, this dream did not begin with Dr. King. It didn't start with him. It didn't even start in his heart. It's God's dream. And I know we don't all conceive of God the same way, so I'm saying this from my Christian perspective. It is God's dream. It is God's dream written in Genesis 12. It is God's dream written in Colossians 3. Shout it out, man. Go ahead.
15 minutes.
Thank you. You're not going to throw me off. I got mad bars, son. It is God's dream beginning in Genesis 12. It is God's dream expressed in Colossians 3. As the Jew, Paul writes of this new Christian reality that he is trying to conceive, and he says in Colossians 3 that there is a new humanity, that it is not only an individual reality, but there's a new humanity embraced in this idea that God became man, and because of this new humanity, now therefore, he says in Colossians 3:11, there is not Greek or Jew, slave or free, barbarian or Scythian, but that Christ is all and in all, which means that we are one new people together. And when we can live for that dream and long for that dream and have that dream be a part of our why, then we can reshape this very, very shattered world in which we presently exist. You can be the generation that actually moves us toward a post-racial society. Because presently we are very, very far from that. And it will be those who fight for King's dream, the hope of a new and equitable humanity. And we have to know that we can be those who, because we've grasped history and know how it is that we got here, that we can reshape the present and have influence in the future. Hear me say that very, very clearly. You cannot reshape the present, and you cannot influence the future divorced from the past. You have to know the history of how we got here in order to see us through to where we are going. Number 5, remember your Creator. And this brings it full circle. Remember your Creator. The great writer, probably the wisest man in the world, and who has been attributed to the words of Ecclesiastes, writes that in Ecclesiastes 12:1. To remember your Creator, to remember that you were made, to remember that you are not an incidental blip in human history, that you have not just fallen into this era without intentionality, but that you were made, shaped, formed, breathed into life with a purpose, and that you have a divine spark that has been placed inside of you, and that it cannot be dulled unless you allow it to. And so remembering your Creator is the conscious, daily remembering that I was made. I say it to myself every morning. I'm not here by incident. I am not here on accident. I am here with intentionality because I was made. And because I was made, I know that what I was made for and why I exist can change this world. And that's how I start every single day. And my hope is that that is how you will start every single day. So, the 5 most important things you will ever hear. Number 1, you matter. You matter. And not in the self-centered, Snapchatty way. You matter because you were made in the image of God. Number 2, live with meaning. Number 3, be others motivated. Number 4, fight for the dream. Don't allow it to die. Don't allow yourself to be lulled into inactivity and comfort. And number 5, remember your Creator and remind yourself every day that you were made with great intention, placed here with a purpose. And for that reason, if you focus all of that energy, you can actually be the generation to change the world. Thank you guys so much.